Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to our European session, EMEA session, I should say, of What Matters 2026, our What Matters 2026 webinar. Welcome. We're really excited to share our work with you today. Over the past few months, we've worked closely across teams and markets to understand what's really shifting in people's lives and what that means for brands heading into 2026. I'm Sven Ahn, Senior Client Director at Humanate, and I'm joined here by Katja, who is a Marketing Director and Content Lead at Humanate, and Alex B, who is Project Director at Space Doctors, our in-house culture and creative agency. And we're here to present What Matters 2026, but before we get serious, we'd like to get a quick temperature check, just to sort of clear the air maybe to start with. What trend talk are you most tired of hearing about? AI is going to replace everything. Crypto is definitely still the next big thing. Being told you're not eating enough protein. The term 6-7, if you know what that means, or all of the above. You can vote now. And let's see. I'll take a look at the results. Okay, so it's looking like AI is going to replace everything is quite significantly top of the voting of the voting list. So that seems to be a big theme. So interesting, and I think we'll be hearing a few things about AI and people's reactions to AI as we go through the presentation. Now, maybe joking aside, let's take another question, because it's a tough moment to be thinking about the future. There's a lot of insecurity out there, but what is your biggest challenge at the moment in your organization? Too many trend reports, it's hard to prioritize. Uncertainty makes long-term planning tough. Turning trends into real action. Aligning teams around one future view, or staying relevant without chasing every signal. Let's see. Okay, this is a bit of a tighter race. So, but the theme is maybe similar. So, turning trends into real action, sort of head on head with staying relevant without chasing every signal. Yeah, sort of picking your battles, picking the trends that you really want to work with. We obviously have some great ideas of how we can facilitate that. More about that later. Let's take a look at the trends and the trend our report first. Now, before we go into the report, just a few things I'd like to point out. While you're listening, please feel free to share them. We love hearing from you as well. So use the chat. If you have any examples that you'd like to share, please feel free to do that. And don't hold back on questions as we move through. You'll see a chat tab and there's a question tab on the right-hand side. So you can use that. You can use those. And you can also, in the questions tab, you can upvote questions from others that feel relevant to you. And we'll try to cover some questions at the end. If we don't manage because of time, we'll follow up afterwards. And of course, feel free to use the emojis. Feel free to use the reaction button at the bottom of the screen. And before we get started, just a quick housekeeping note. You'll receive the full trend report as part of the session follow-up. If you haven't downloaded it already or accessed it already, I should say, you will receive it as part of the follow-up. And now, before we dive into the trends, I'll hand over to Katja, who will share how we came to this report and the methodology behind it.
Yes. So we used a mixed approach combining different methodologies, as you can see here on the slide, because we believe that one lens only doesn't bring you the full picture. So we started with cultural analysis, where our in-house culture and trends agency, Space Doctors, explored the emerging themes. And here we tapped into our living cultural database built on 20 years of cultural tracking and foresighting to map these emerging themes. In the second phase, we ran different hive minds. These are in-depth workshops with regional and sector experts to curate these teams, which resulted in the 8 trends that we have in the report. And we wanted to really understand how these trends are manifesting across the globe. And to do that, we surveyed 13,300 consumers in 16 markets. But not only that, we also wanted to contextualize these trends and get a better understanding of how they're coming to life. And so we interviewed 220 consumers in 11 markets. And as the last phase of the in-depth research, we also ran a mission-based community. It's our key methodology at Humanate, where we used a closed platform gathering consumers. And in this case, these were leading edge consumers. Those are the early adopters, the boundary pushers, those that live at the fringes, to really see how these trends show up in daily life, but also what are the early signals that are emerging. But we didn't stop there. We don't only wanted to get these insights, we also wanted to see like, what could this mean and what for in the future for brands. And that's where space doctors, they use speculative tools to develop future concepts. And future concepts, those are products, experiences, but also rituals from the future that cast a light on today's unresolved tensions. Now, this is in fact the 6th edition of our What Matters report. And every time we come back to this one guiding question, and that is, what matters to people? And in 2025, the title of the report was Fulfillment Rewired, because we saw that those were very uncertain times and people were reclaiming control and meaning, this by slowing down, making intentional choices, but also by finding fulfillment in everyday moments. And in 2026, we see that the world has only grown more uncertain. But not only that, because we see also that it's become very contradictory in the sense that we see cultural acceleration on one hand, but at the same time, there's a lot of political polarization. We see that there's a lot of economic pressure, but at the same time, there's also a lot of movement, a positive movement in the technology space. And I like this chart here because it really showcases that duality, and it's from the IMF, which shows how 2025 was in fact a year where uncertainty has really surged exceptionally high. If you look at that, it's reached this very high point. And the reality is that's likely not going to change in the near future. But at the same time, we see that there's also, when you look at the economic sentiment, it's very stable and positive. And it shows really that duality. And that duality is in fact also visible on the consumer side, because our global research showed that in fact, many people feel happy, and also there's an optimism about the future. But at the same time, we see that fewer trust institutions, and only 45% of people believe that the next generation will be better off. And also when it comes to tech and human, we see that common tension where we see that 76% believe that technology makes their life easier. And even more than 1 in 2 people believe that AI positively impacts their lives today. But at the same time, we see this big worry with 64% of people worrying that the human touch will be lost because of AI, and 61% worry about the impact of technology and AI on society. And it's this tension between confidence and concern which lies at the heart of this year's theme of the report, and that's recalibrating identities. In 2026, we see that people are in fact somewhat accepting the uncertainty. We see that people are learning to navigate the bigger picture. They are recalibrating who they are within it. And we see that people are renegotiating what it means to belong, but also to feel recognized and to stay true to themselves. And this, in fact, comes to life in the 8 trends that illuminate how identity stories are being reshaped. And these are the 8 trends of our report. And today, we don't have the time to dive into each trend in full detail. but we'll dive into 4 of them. And if you want to know more, we encourage you, like Sven said, to read the reports, which we'll share after, or of course, pop your questions in the chat. So let's get started. So the first one is human pride. And human pride is about people reclaiming the value of being human, of the human touch, the craft, the creativity, but also the things that make us unmistakably human. And I said it just a couple of slides back. This is something that has been fueled by AI and technology, where we said, and we saw that 64% of people worry that the human touch is being lost. I see that there are some technical issues for some people. If you have trouble, it might be good to get out of the session and rejoin, and hopefully your sound will be fine, because I also see that other people have no issues. So if you have any issues, try to log off and then come back in. But the session is recorded, so you can also watch the recording afterwards. Let me jump back into human pride. Human pride celebrates, in fact, what sets us apart from machines. And it's that reminder to embrace what it means to be human, and this with all our strengths, but also our flaws and our uniquenesses. It's the joy of learning, the pride of mastering a skill, and even of making mistakes. And this is something that is widely recognized across the globe. It's one of our top trends in the report, with 76% of people believing human creativity, craft, and imperfection will always matter more than what machines can generate. And we see the same in EMEA. When zooming in on EMEA, it's also 76%. And we see that this sentiment is shared widely across markets, from France to the UK, where it even moves to 81% in South Africa. We do see a slightly lower score for Germany. If we look at the global picture, we see a similar, slightly lower score for China. And that's because these are markets where the trust in technology is high. But even there, we see, human pride as this tension appearing. And in the remaining presentation, we'll mainly zoom in on EMEA as a whole. But as I said, we have this, we ran this study in 60 markets. So if you want more regional differences, those can be, of course, found in the report. So what are brands doing today when it comes to human pride? And an example that I like, and it's actually in the space of AI, is a campaign from Claude. With this campaign, they position their AI model as a tool that supports rather than replaces human reasoning. It highlights the importance of human judgment with their phrase, keep thinking, in this increasingly automated world. And another example, and one I really love, is the one from Wikipedia. I don't know if you know this or realize this, but Wikipedia is celebrating its 25th birthday this year. It actually, and doing so, and with this campaign, they celebrate the humans who make knowledge possible. And their campaign highlights how in a world shaped by algorithms, but also misinformation and a lot of noise, Wikipedia reminds us of the joy of learning, the power of curiosity, but also the beauty of knowledge that is built by people and for people. And Wikipedia is, you could say, one of the best examples of human collaborative potential. Let's have a look at the campaign.
25 years ago, Wikipedia was a dream, a wildly ambitious, probably impossible dream. Fast forward, billions of readers, hundreds of thousands of editors, from a 20-something in Tokyo to a father in Lagos, from a teacher keeping an endangered language alive to a fan updating the score at the final whistle. Wikipedia became the world's go-to resource. When you look something up, it's there. When you add to it, the whole world keeps learning. It's knowledge from all humanity, and you're a part of it. AI studies Wikipedia. Search engines copy it. Your smart speaker whispers it back to you.
Here's what I found on Wikipedia. I mean the internet.
And behind it all, people. Our arguing, editing, and somehow agreeing. In a world where paywalls and advertising seem to be the norm, Wikipedia is still free, neutral, open, human. It's the internet we were promised. 25 years of knowledge, 25 years of collaboration, 25 years of consensus, 25 years of humanity at its best. The future of knowledge is yours to protect.
And ending with a powerful statement, knowledge is human. Another example is Polaroids. In 2025, they launched this campaign with a message saying AI can't generate sand between your toes, reminding people that the real lived moments matter more than anything digital or AI generated. It really highlights that no technology can replace the feeling of being truly present and those real lived moments. And talking about the power of physical things, Nationwide, one of UK's biggest financial service providers, had to move away from their paper passbooks, which are these physical booklets used to track saving transactions because of regulatory and operational changes. Now, that was a big challenge because they had more than 7 million passbook owners, and these were often older and more vulnerable clients. And these accounts didn't only come with a lot of savings, but moving people away from a trusted format was a big challenge. So Nationwide wanted to understand how they could best service that transition. And one of the key learnings that came from this was actually an award-winning project that we did with them, where we combined a mix of in-home deep dives, but also surveys and staff interviews, was that people needed something tangible, a physical token that they could hold on to. And this, in fact, led to the creation of the savings wallet. It's the one that you can see here on the screen, which includes a card, but also store mini statements. And it was highly successful, showing that even in a tech-driven world, tangible solutions still matter. So what does human pride mean for brands? As we've just seen, the human touch is really re-emerging as this powerful differentiator. So for brands, it's an opportunity to highlight the people, but also the stories behind your brand. It's about moving away from those perfected, automated outputs, but also leaning into the work that is real and human. And now I'll hand it over to Alex, who will introduce us to the second trend.
Amazing, thank you, Katia, and hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm sure someone will let me know if not. But let's take a look at hyperblanding. So this shift is really driven by globalization and hyper-connectedness, as well as algorithms that always default to the average, and AI that is drawing on patterns of data that already exist. So that sense of sameness is being reinforced. And these systems tend to keep coming back to the middle ground rather than amplifying uniqueness. And we see that half of the people that we spoke to across the EMEA region say that everything is starting to look and feel the same, which is perhaps unsurprising as people are taking comfort and solace in kind of blending in this uncertain backdrop, and where familiar options promise that sense of belonging and also mass appeal. But you can see from this quote that people are recognizing that social media platforms are contributing to similar thinking. And these platforms actively encourage and reward people for interacting with whatever is already trending on a global scale. And we can see that platforms are increasingly filled with these kind of lookalike shows. Sequels, these kind of second screen formats that are designed to be easy to understand and digest while viewers watch at the same time as scrolling on their phones. But all of that is creating a sea of content that starts to kind of blend together. And Apple TV's The Studio is a really great example of speaking directly to this. So If you haven't watched the studio, the narrative kind of centers around taking viewers behind the scenes of Hollywood into scripts, drafts, and creative compromises, really exposing how originality is often diluted in favor of predictability that is guaranteed to perform well. We can also see that Pantone's colour of the year for 2026, Cloud Dancer, is actually the first time since 1999 that white has been the shade selected by the company to reflect the year ahead. And in this time of huge division and fractured systems across the globe, Pantone's selection is quite quiet and soft, described as billowy, balanced, and imbued with a feeling of serenity. And it does feel like this choice is deliberately neutral compared to bold or challenging colours of previous years. And as always, we see kind of a reaction to these shifts. So beneath this surface of sameness, a counter movement is building where there's this hunger for edge, distinction, and uniqueness. So Greenpeace tapped directly into this countercurrent by pushing back against Pantone's colour of the year. And Greenpeace challenged the idea that a single trend-driven shade can symbolize optimism while the planet is facing an escalating environmental crisis. So rather than accepting that kind of neutral, feel-good color, Greenpeace used the Pantone campaign to redirect attention towards the realities of the climate crisis, pollution, biodiversity loss, really a confrontation and purpose to cut through the sameness. We can also see this quote from one of the people that we spoke to as part of this research, expressing that they feel that influencers are all looking the same. So TikTok face is a concept that describes a specific look where faces are engineered by filters and visual sameness, optimized by tweakments and treatments that adjust the facial features to better fit TikTok's algorithm. And now let's have a think about how hyperblanding might play out beyond 2026. And this is where our future concepts that were introduced at the start come in. So to work with the future at Space Doctors, we blend two modes of thinking: the projective, based on what we can see happening today, and the imaginative, which is based on what we have the capacity to envision. And signals help us to do this. They're the early clues of where culture is heading. And you'll see a lot of them in the presentation today, but they are fragments of the future that are already taking shape. And then through speculative foresight frameworks, we explore how these fragments might evolve. And it reveals opportunities and tensions and maybe some more kind of unexpected pathways forward. So for this shift, we applied this approach to the beauty industry, and we used today's signal of TikTok face to help us think about the future. So let's land in 2030 and look at a fictional artifact from the future that we've created and see what we can learn for today. So in 2030, aesthetic treatments have become an integral and everyday part of life, as accessible and routine as brushing your teeth. We have more advanced and safe technologies that enable people to permanently or temporarily reshape their facial features with ease, democratizing cosmetic alteration on a global scale. This era is really defined by that cultural tension, so the widespread adoption of an algorithmically optimized face promoted by social media and also by biometric identification tools that's really homogenizing facial features and flattening standards of beauty. Whereas in the response to that, on the other side of the tension, we see a vibrant counter movement emerging, which celebrates more kind of diversity, the unique and imperfect traits that define individual identity. So a brand that is seeking to address this emerging tension in 2030 is True. And True are committed to exposure of the signs of aging, individuality, and ancestry rather than reversal or erasure. So with treatments and tech that help people to rediscover who they really are. And True's best-selling products are the Magic Wrinkle Revealer and the Unseen Mirror. So the unseen mirror reflects your face back to you as it would look without those societal and social media pressures, the globalized ideals, the external gazes. You can use it to uncover how your face would look without all of those layers of perception, bringing you back to the core of who you are and what you would look like. The wrinkle revealer is a dermal amplifier that magnifies and projects your skin's microlines as glowing topographies, transforming wrinkles into visible narratives of time, emotion, and experience. So to come back to today, this speculative thinking isn't about responding to this fictional scenario and product specifically, but using it to loosen our grip on reality, surfacing assumptions and blind spots that might be holding us back, and revealing those implications that otherwise we might not have thought about. So we can look at kind of overall, what does hyperblanding mean for brands? And this might be about reintroducing an authentic brand character while maintaining the kind of comfort that consumers are now expecting, using storytelling and thoughtful design to differentiate in a way that feels purposeful, and combining recognizable brand cues with experiences that feel personal and curated. And let's move on now to health unscripted, which is the next shift that we'll talk about today. So health unscripted is a shift in the way that we understand the meaning of health and healthy, and acknowledging that the standards of health have been set on a one-size-fits-all ideal. This space is about health that isn't defined by an able-bodied neurotypical standard. There is a whole spectrum between well and sick, and we can accept and understand that people shift along it depending on many different factors, including life stage, the context that they're in, and their emotional state. So health becomes seen as this ongoing journey. We can see that 75% of the people that we spoke to in EMEA are already in agreement that there is no single way to be healthy, and healthy lifestyles should really reflect individual needs. And this quote from our research expresses that idea that there isn't a single formula to health, with awareness of different bodies and having different needs for different times of the year or times of life, or finding those metrics that work for you, which might be no metrics at all. And rather than following proven expert-led routines and methods, over half of the people in EMEA prefer to adapt approaches to fit their own lives, find their own rhythm and balance, reflecting this preference for kind of owning your own decision-making. So let's look at some brand examples. Hims and Hers Healthcare addressed the adoption of GLP-1 treatments in their Super Bowl 2025 campaign. And the company used the slogan, "Health is personal, so is your care." And they specifically tailor treatments to individuals' needs and goals. And they really directly address America's obesity crisis and kind of take the guilt away from consumers for that, really addressing the challenges of the current healthcare system itself with that action. What are they actually doing? And they empathize with those who the healthcare system simply isn't working for and are seeking out a new approach. Pure Gym's Feel Good Glow campaign avoids setting specific body standards by not showing a body at all. Instead, a glowing character embodies the feeling that comes from a workout. So let's take a look at their campaign.
Tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off. Tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off, we're gonna tear the roof off.
There's feeling good and there's feeling Pure Gym good.
And we can also, as part of this shift, just mention some work that we did with Durex, and that was to better understand how intimacy is evolving. And through our partnership with Durex, we brought cultural insight and immersive consumer exploration to uncover how people today want sexual wellness to feel, which was more real, relatable, and pressure free. It's not about that kind of scripted or idealized representation. And these insights help Durex to refresh their brand positioning and communication, shifting towards a tone that embraces the everydayness of intimacy and the full spectrum of lived experience. So let's go again to the future and visit 2030 to see how health unscripted might be playing out through our speculative concept. Now, looking at health unscripted, we can take a signal from today. For example, health insurance companies that reward customers for tracking 10,000 steps a day to lower their premiums, and think about how that might play out in the future. So imagine if we could easily track our cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and companies and employers would be fined if their employees went over a healthy level of stress. What if people in 2030 needed to exercise their softness as well as their fitness? So again, welcome to 2030, where Mood Gym helps you to tune into your body's signals. Now, Mood Gym is not a spa or a boot camp, but it's a space that treats health as an evolving practice, shaped by your body and emotions in the moment. And where fitness gyms reward repetition and correction, Mood Gym rewards experimentation and curiosity. So whether you need to move or rest, or even just a safe space to explore and almost practice difficult emotions, Mood Gym provides real-time biofeedback and mood check-ins throughout your session. It's really rooted in inclusivity and neurodiversity and body neutrality. So Mood Gym is replacing rigidity with responsiveness, inviting people to feel their way to health. Health that isn't restrictive or binary, it's about being present and alive. And again, you can use this speculative concept to loosen the grip on how we already understand health. So what new challenges might Mood Gym pose for us today? What would our opportunities be? And how can this impact our strategy as well as our long-range planning? Thinking about health unscripted overall, we can think about brands thinking about how they prescribe wellness and instead perhaps support flexible, personalized approaches, meeting people where they are, designing adaptable products, celebrating diverse bodies, needs, and lifestyles, and communicating with care. So brands can make wellness and health feel supportive and empowering, not demanding. And I'll hand over to Sven to speak through our final trend.
Thank you very much, Alex. Yes, and I'll take the body as the link to the next trend. The body is one of the many things that differentiates us from AI. So that's what makes us, one of the things that makes us different. This trend is not just about the body, it's about achievement, and it's about the redefinition of achievement. Achievement is being redefined today as the pride in the journey. We see that people are increasingly highlighting the hard work, the discipline, and the resilience that sits behind their accomplishments. Whereas in the past, effort was sometimes quietly tucked away and new stars just appeared out of nowhere. It's now emerging to the surface and the hard work is becoming more important. Social media is magnifying this. So fitness and lifestyle influencers, they showcase their progress, they show us their milestones, turning effort into something that is shared rather than something that is silent. Globally, this is a really strong trend. 73% globally in EMEA as well, two-thirds of people saying that achievement today is about openly showing effort. And this is interesting also on a global level because traditionally Asian cultures were more often celebrated the achievement more than the effort, whereas Western cultures valued the idea of participation. But there seems to be a sort of convergence happening here with effort increasingly recognized and celebrated. And it's also a convergence over generations. So it started, although Gen Z and millennials is around 70%. Interestingly, with the boomers, it's around 70% as well, 68%. Gen X is the generation that's a little bit lower at 61%. But we see that the Gen Z, millennials, and boomers are aligning quite closely. Sharing this sort of reframing of achievement across society, where maybe younger generations have helped to normalize sharing the struggle and the journey, and older generations have sort of adopted it and embraced it. Whereas in the past, success was shown through status, titles, financial security, or just the end goal. So for brands, this gives a great opportunity to tell achievement stories, and these achievement stories are likely to resonate over generations. So let's look at Standard Bank's 2025 campaign, which celebrates the effort behind achievement, following individuals as they pursue their goals. There ain't no mountain high enough.
Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough. If you let me call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far, ain't no mountain high enough to keep me from getting to you.
Very clearly showing the journey. Another example, talking about work and the hard work that goes into things, is one from Carhartt, so a brand that traditionally or originally was a workwear brand. The Made Possible campaign shows the hard work of tradespeople across various industries, and Carhartt sort of showcases the unsung heroes behind everyday achievements. It underscores the value of hard work and the importance of recognizing the effort that goes in things that are great and is often unnoticed. And finally, Adidas, the You Got This 2025 campaign. This campaign really shifts the spotlight from winning to the work behind progress, showing everyday athletes training, failing, rising, and pushing forward. It really highlights the effort. It's quite a long ad, so we've cut it a little bit just in the interest of time. But you'll see that it doesn't just show the heroes at peak performance. It frames achievement as a collaborative climb. It's not just a solo act, it's the coaches, the friends, the teammates, the supporters who help keep you going. And the emphasis is on the effort and the discipline, already just in terms of the time spent in the ad on the struggle, the personal growth, rather than the trophies or the perfection. Let's take a look at the ad.
Hey, did you get him? Yeah. I got every time with his team, man. Alright, coach, put me on this, man.
Nice dive. Now find your rhythm.
On that. Ah! Hey, okay, man. That boy lit. That boy lit.
You got one more for you. Right there, boy. Here she is, guys. She's coming, guys.
Let's go.
Good morning, Emma. I'm right here now. Come on, come to me, come to me.
Onyedi. Yo, for Danny. Boss, man, I'm turned up right now, though. Oh, you're violent.
Give me a hand. You're good.
Just don't forget what I sent you this morning. You are equipped. Don't allow anyone or anything to tell you different.
I got that. One more. You can. I really can't. Judy, chin up, bro. You got a goal with you, man. Let's back. Gas. Come on.
Oh, come on, Sam. This is looking really good. You only got 10 kilos, okay? Your pace is phenomenal. Are you ready?
Kevin's all good. Take the hit. Embrace it. You're here for a reason, baby. You are here for a reason, baby. One, two, three.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, they do get there in the end, of course, because it's Adidas. But you see the focus on the struggles, the failures along the way, which is really interesting, a slightly different take to some of the campaigns of the past. So what does the achievement zone mean for brands? Maybe it means shifting the focus from perfect outcomes to the journey people take and the journey people take with your brands. Celebrate effort, resilience, and the small wins along the way. They are maybe sometimes more important than the big life goals. And provide tools, experiences, or campaigns that honor this growth. So I think a lot of food for thought here. And we hope that the session has sparked a few ideas. We only have a few minutes left. So just to sort of conclude, we hope the session has sparked a few ideas, whether it's helping you to recognize where your brand is already tapping into these trends or highlighting opportunities where you could lean in more strongly as we move into 2026. As we said at the beginning, you'll receive the full What Matters report, where you can explore all of the trends in more depth with added nuance and many, many more brand examples. Before we move into the Q&A, there's one more thing. Trends are not the end, they're the beginning. And a trend report is not the end, it's the beginning. And we're really happy to think through how this report or the elements of this report could work for your business. We offer workshops in various formats to identify the trends that hold the most potential for your business challenges, or for your brands, or for a combination of those three things. And also to explore ways that you can activate them with your teams. And before we jump into maybe one or two questions, we'd also really appreciate a bit of feedback. You'll see a QR code on the screen. So if you have your phone handy, maybe you can just scan it and answer 3 short questions, or you can share your feedback by clicking on the link at the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, we really thank you in advance for taking your time. So I think we have 1 minute left. So maybe one question. Katja, was there a question that came in the chat? And then I think we should let people get the afternoon cup of coffee.
Yeah, we got 2 questions. One is, in fact, from Mary on methodology. So indeed, we did a survey with 13,000 consumers in 60 markets. So that was a quantified, to quantify the trends, so a quantitative research part. And then we also did interviews, 220 consumer interviews in 11 markets, and then we had the community. So it's a mixed approach, but the question you had was indeed, it's a quantitative survey. And then we had one more question, which was indeed, and a good reflection from Barbara, mentioning that many of these trends feel very Europe-centric. Of course, we're in the EMEA webinar, so we zoomed in a bit on how these trends manifest in Europe and EMEA at large. But of course, in the report, you can see the differences there also globally, because indeed the comment is, what about Asia and APAC and markets like China? And it's indeed like that some of these, I think, for example, hyperblending are a bit lower, like in markets like China, but there are trends in the report that are, for example, there's retail fandom, which is a trend that is very strong in markets like China and are interesting also to explore from European side, because this is something that we see is still very, I would say, slowly emerging here and there. It's very prominent, but also things like we have a trend that is really about traditions and how future traditions, how that is, and that we see also those are strong trends in the market, but also some of the trends that we explored here on, like we said, achievement zone, which is that's what Sven said, that we see that that similarity, that the effort is being recognized. But for those nuances, either reach out to us. I would say there are very interesting nuances in the report where we have a regional deep dive for every trend. But yeah, there are definitely some differences there, which make it very interesting. But these trends, you could say, do have this global, I would say, reach. and how they're manifesting. Of course, that's a bit different here and there. I don't know. Yeah, I see we are over
Yeah, I think
time.
we're out of
Yeah,
time. So maybe
exactly.
we'll share our email addresses at the end. So please feel free to reach out to us or to Humanate if you don't want to talk to us three. You can reach out to Humanate if there are any other questions you have. If we find any other questions in the chat, we'll follow up individually. And thank you again very much for your time, for joining us today, for spending this short 45 minutes with us this afternoon, and have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.